how are you?
I'm whatever. I'm fine. I'm all right. It's a little, it's a little stressful and crazy.
What's stressful?
Just the everything. There's a wedding and stuff coming up, and
whose wedding?
Mine.
Why is that stressful for you?
I don't know.
Isn't it just how hard is it to go in front of a court and just get the paper signed?
Oh no, but it's going to be more than that. Believe it or not. Yeah.
Is that really legally required?
No, and that's the infuriating part is that I have to put up with it anyway.
I see. We're so lucky that your wife-to-be doesn't listen to this podcast.
Yeah. I am sorry, honey. I don't call her honey, and I never will.
I call her many other ridiculous things.
I call my rabbit honey. I say, hi, honey. How are you? And I do that voice because that's what you do when you talk to animals for no reason.
Well, and people generally.
Yeah.
I'm supposed to tell you that I would like a campsite for our wedding. Oh, for your wedding. I want a campsite for your wedding. Yeah,
just a campsite?
I don't know.
Like to put up a tent?
I was told to tell you that.
I mean,
I don't know.
Just that night? Saturday night?
I don't know. I listen,
right,
man.
Listen.
I still haven't registered on your website.
You listen. And listeners, I guess you need to know the contest. I'm getting married on a campground. We're renting out the whole campground, actually. So that night of the wedding, we have the whole place. You're free to put a tent up anywhere.
Really?
Anywhere. And
wow.
So yeah, and you should. It would be great. We're gonna build fires and dance around naked and things.
In our fancy tuxedos.
Naked in our tuxedos, yes.
Yeah. That sounds like a lot of fun. I'm excited.
Yeah.
But just to be clear, we're not getting married.
No, you're already married.
I am already married.
Yeah.
And even in places where it's legal to marry multiple people, we're still not getting married.
Yeah, that's I mean, I don't
think it's
know
a
where
common
that's
mistake,
legal.
actually, that people think that we're in a relationship.
You and I?
Yeah, after listening to this podcast and, seeing us about.
Well, we are in a relationship, but it's totally platonic.
Yeah, I mean, it's just snuggles.
Yeah, it's like light benefits.
Yeah.
Anyway, what you heard at the beginning was the band Self-Diagnose with their song It's Cancer, I Just Know It. And that's from their new album, Google It. And, they've been around a long, long time.
Oh.
They've come a long way since their 1995 debut album, Alta Vista It, which was not, they hadn't quite come into their own yet, so.
I see. I know a lot about the internet, and I haven't heard of them. I probably should look them up. That sounded great.
Oh, they're not on the internet.
Oh.
No,
I see. Okay.
Yeah, they're an Amish band, actually. They're very against technology. It's very punk rock, actually.
I see. Wow, it's deep, man.
Yeah, you can only hear them acoustically in person. So that's just how they are, man. But you should check them out on Amazon.
On iTunes.
Oh,
Is that even what it's called anymore? Apple Music.
They keep
on Spotify.
Apple keep going. They can't make up their minds whether they want to be called Apple or not. I mean, they started out being Apple, and then they just started going by Mac. And Apple was just like a background thing. Like, yes, we're the Apple company, but hey, did you get? Yeah, I'm using a Mac, man. How about the new iMac, Mac
That's how
OS?
I talked actually 30 years ago, 20 years ago.
And now they're like, no, it's Apple again. Like we're, and then everything was something, right? But now they're like, oh, it's Apple. Now it's Apple Music and Apple.
Long time Mac nerds will know that even before it was it was E. Like the eMac or eWorld, but for electronic, I assume. But anyway,
right.
but no one. That's only the most diehard Mac people.
Well, they're not allowed to use the E because that's been trademarked by the internet. So,
right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So what are we going to talk about today?
Well, we should just say like this is our science article for the week because that's all we do is science articles.
No, it's not.
Yeah, okay,
we talk about all kinds of stupid things.
It's not all we do, but I do think they keep coming up in my news feed because
it's a semi-recurring segment.
Because I've clicked because it's not like I use DuckDuckGo. They know that I just click on a couple of them and that's it. All you get is science articles.
Can you make my voice sound amazing when I announce the segment?
Sure.
All right, here we go. Science News.
I mean, that was already amazing. I don't think I need to do anything. So.
Oh, I mean, I think it needs an echo.
Well.
Some kind of large reverb.
Yeah,
anyway, I'm sorry. I really am getting distracted. You were saying.
Well, I was saying that this is yet again from Science Alert. Although the research itself was published in Nature, so you can also find it there. We'll put links to both. But this is so mass extinction in the human gut was revealed by fossil remains of 2,000-year-old feces. So this was a genomic analysis of fossilized human feces from rock shelters across North America and Mexico. It's only 8 samples, so it's a small sample size, but they found... so what they did was they reconstructed like a whole 498 microbial genomes, and then they said 181 were most likely to have originated in the human gut, and 158 of those seemed to represent a distinct microbial species of some kind. So then they compared them to microbiomes of present-day human communities, gut communities, from both industrial and non-industrial communities. And what they found was that not only were the ancient microbiomes more similar to those from modern non-industrial communities, but they contained species not seen in any modern microbiome. 61 were completely unknown to science. That's almost 40%. And they think it has something to do with diversity in diet. In ancient cultures, the foods you're eating are very diverse and can support a more eclectic collection of microbes. But as you move toward industrialization and more of a grocery store diet, you lose a lot of nutrients that help support a more diverse microbiome.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And so these old ancient microbes had fewer genes associated with antibiotic resistance, but they also had fewer genes for producing proteins that degrade glycans, the sugar molecules found in mucus, and degradation of colonic mucus is associated with diseases such as Crohn's disease, celiac disease, and ulcerative colitis.
Colitis,
okay. Yeah. And they also
swelling of the colon.
They also had higher numbers of transposases, enzymes that can cut and paste and replicate themselves, switching things around to help adapt to changing conditions.
Are you sure it's not pronounced transposases?
Transposases. Well, anyway, the first thing I want to say here is that I really hope whoever's shit this was somebody who felt down on himself because he thought he wasn't going to be remembered, like man, man, Ugg, my brother Ugg is known across all the plains as the greatest cave painter, and my cousin Thok, has his stick sharpening business is booming. But I've done nothing with my life. I've made nothing of myself.
That's right. And he dies that way. Just before a rock. That's his last thought before a rock hits him.
But I mean, how thrilled would he be to know that he's doing science today? Actually,
it'd probably be a spear that hit him. Actually. Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
He could have been gored by a mammoth. Anyway, I don't think they existed back then. But anyway,
I just think Thok's up to no good. I think that maybe this was fratricide.
Oh, geez. Well, listen. This is all speculative.
There's a little intrigue here going on. This is my version of Ugg.
Well, I just I think that it's great that, and you know, like the other thing I want to say is that I hope there aren't any like hoarders listening to this podcast, because now the lesson they're going to take away from this is like, see, this is why you should never throw anything away. You never know if you're going to need it. And here we are, just disposing of our excrement every day in the toilet.
2 million years later, only to discover. You know, so this reminds me, when I hear the stories like that, and many stories about doing things which seem commonplace, like reassembling microbial DNA or genomes, that's really a really hard problem to do. And of course, there are some terrible grad students whose job it was to go like analyze fossilized poop and try to put this together. And they you know, they probably got some position on the paper, you know, maybe like the 8th position.
Yeah.
Somewhere in the middle, not the first, not the second, who's obviously the principal, and not the last, who's also semi-important, but somewhere in the middle. And they had a really terrible job to go do this. But I hope whoever wrote that, this got you into nature, into science, whatever. And I hope you got your PhD as a result. I hope this is part of a larger dissertation about such works, and congratulations.
Congratulations to the researchers. Yes.
That's right. But my wife has this friend she went to school with for a number of years, who, you know, was a marine biologist, and everything about marine biology sounds super cool. Everyone hears marine biology and you think dolphins. I get to play with dolphins.
Yeah, or well, as long as you don't think that it's something to do with the military, which it really isn't.
No. Yeah. And but so she worked at Woods Hole, Massachusetts, and we got to go visit her, and she was like, "Oh, you guys came at a great time, because just last week we were doing the autopsy of the whale carcasses." And I was like, "What?" And she's like, "Oh yeah, we have a room where we pull in a whale carcass, and then we get to climb inside and like take it apart." And I was like,
"Inside?"
Because they're big, you know, whales are huge.
Right.
And climb inside and take them apart and figure out how they died and like what happened. And I was like, that is not what I think about when I think about marine biology. And anyway, I'm sure people who signed up to be what archaeologists or whatever kind of ancient fauna discipline this is, were not like, I'm going to go play around with some Neanderthal poop.
Yeah. But I mean, you know, yeah, you're thinking of dolphin trainers, I guess, or something.
Yeah. That's what people really mean when they they should be thinking dolphin trainers.
You know, I think this article is interesting for the reason that, like, so, you know, the more recent microbial ecosystems inside us are basically evolved to cause these kinds of diseases in us, these like developed world diseases. You'd think that as we evolved, we'd like evolve away from such things, but that's not how evolution works, because it's kind of like the great premise of that movie Idiocracy, where they're like, you know, it's all about adapting. It's all about, okay, genes replicating, right? So basically, in order for your genes to replicate, you have to survive long enough to reproduce and then to raise your offspring, if you're the kind of species that needs to raise offspring so that they can reproduce. It's just about genes replicating. And, you know, before civilization, that was it usually coincided with like survival, like having to survive, having to like eat and stuff.
Sure.
But now it's like we don't really have to worry about surviving in the modern world. That's like already kind of a given. Right. And so now genes replicate based on other things that are not necessarily in our benefit or in our favor.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be said, though, when everyone brings up Idiocracy, that the premise of that movie is false. That's not really how it works, but it is hilarious. Also, you're wrong, and I'm right. You know, did you? I don't think you read internet comics, but there was this internet comic that kind of made a splash a little while ago related to scientific papers.
No,
It's from XKCD, which is one of my favorite comics, the internet's favorite comic, and it's called Types of Scientific Paper.
Yeah.
And I'm going to read them to you, and we're going to figure out which paper this was.
Okay.
So the first one is, we put a camera somewhere new.
Not that one.
Not that one.
Oh.
Another one. Hey, I found a trove of old records. They don't turn out to be particularly useful, but still, cool.
That's possible.
My colleague is wrong, and I can finally prove it.
Yeah, maybe not.
The immune system is at it again. No.
Yeah, no.
We figured out how to make this exotic material, so email us if you need some.
No.
What are fish even doing down there? This task I had to do anyway turned out to be hard enough for its own paper.
Yeah, I mean, maybe that one. And then...
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, at least we showed that this method can produce results. That's not nothing, right?
Yeah, that's the one.
I think that's the one, yeah.
Well, they
Check
even
out
said
this weird thing one of us saw while out for a walk.
Yeah, that one works too. I mean,
here are 500 scientists, and here's what we've been up to for the last 10 years.
There's anyone that can fall into multiple categories. That's the thing. So
I think it might be. It could be true. There's two more. I'll leave those as suspense for you people who want to look it up.
They do say at the end of the article that how the evolving microbiome may have altered our health is unclear, and the sample size is very small. So basically, they don't know anything, is what they're saying by the end of the article.
Hey, look at these old rocks. Yeah, there you go.
Exactly.
Well, that was a good article. I'm intrigued. I'm very interested in gut biome, and I'm glad that I think it's an exciting new field of medical research in the future. People will talk about their gut biomes like they talk about their exercise routines today.
I've already started playing with my shit, so
yeah, perfect.
I think we got to get to the Mad Hat.
Okay, yeah.
But first,
okay.
This podcast was brought to you by Haptic Technologies RealiReader. Do you love the convenience of e-readers, but just can't give up that wonderful experience of holding a brand new book in your hands, feeling its weight, and smelling the exciting fragrance of fresh ink as you run your fingers along the surface of each finely textured page? Well, now you don't have to choose. Introducing RealiReader from Haptic Technologies, the next step in the evolution of e-readers. RealiReader looks and feels just like a real book, down to its 500 flexible, uncannily realistic pages, which can load any text onto their fully turnable print-like surfaces in stunning 8K resolution. The seamless touchscreen on the front displays the covers of all your favorite novels in a glossy, photo-like finish, but it also functions as your menu screen for easy navigation of your up to 320 gigabyte library. Plus, setup is a snap. Simply power on the RealiReader via the on button near the top of the spine, and you'll see the Haptic Technologies welcome message on the touchscreen. At the prompt, choose Set up my device, then create an account. Create a username and password and tap Submit, and you'll be on your way to... All right, well, that's probably because you didn't hit Submit like I told you to. Well, what you probably did is you probably hit OK. Yeah, see, now you're back in the last screen. When you hit OK, it takes you back. All right, so go back in, create an account. Create an account in the upper right. The upper right. It's right there! Jesus! Okay, now type in your username and password again. It doesn't matter, it can be anything. Okay, now. No, don't hit OK. You're going to hit Submit. No. God damn it! All right, stop. Just put it down. All right? Just listen to me. Okay? You're not listening. I want you to listen to what I'm telling you. No, don't look down at the screen. Look at me. Look at me and pay attention. Don't look at him. He's not the one who has to learn this. He already knows this stuff. This is for you. I'm doing this for you because you need to know how to do this. All right? You need to learn this. All right? This is important. All right, now what are you going to do? You're going to hit create an account. Don't do it yet. Just listen. You're going to hit create an account. You're going to type in your username and password, and you're going to hit submit. Okay? You got it? You with me so far? All right. So go back in. What do you mean the screen went blank? All right, let me see it. Let me see it so I can figure out what's wrong. All right, stop. Just stop. You don't know what you're doing. You're going to break something. Just give it to me. Jesus. All right. What the fuck? I don't know what the fuck you did. Well, you must have done something because the whole fucking thing is resetting itself right now. Well, you obviously hit something because this never happened before. You obviously don't know what the fuck you're doing, which is why I'm trying to... All right, it's back on the fucking welcome screen. Fuck! All right. What the fuck is it doing now? Come on! All right. Okay, now let's try this again. You're going to hit set up my device. No, tomorrow. Yes, now. All right, now hit create an account. All right, now don't touch anything. Now you're going to type in a username. It can be anything you want it to be. It doesn't matter. Am I speaking English? Yes, anything. Okay, now type in a password. Just type anything. You can always change it later. Okay, now stop. Look at me. You're going to hit submit. Don't touch anything else. Just submit. All right, there. Device setup is complete. You're done. Don't worry about that right now. I don't have time to play with that right now, as long as it's working. Did I stutter? I said don't worry about it. Jesus fucking Christ! Haptic Technologies RealiReader. RealiReader. The library of tomorrow. Warning, parts of RealiReader's construction are known to the state of California to cause cancer. This product contains electronic components and mechanical moving parts. Please read the product manual before using RealiReader to avoid risk of fire, electric shock, or injury. Haptic Technologies is not responsible for damage, injury, or death caused by negligence or improper usage by people who don't listen to what I'm telling them and instead go around doing whatever the fuck they want and wasting my goddamn time by not getting their head out of their ass and maybe fucking doing something right for a change. Fuck! Okay. Anyway, everyone, you should probably go check out RealiReader. It's sounds like a really good product.
Well, let's go to the Mad Hat.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go to the Mad Hat.
Are you okay?
What? Yeah, I'm okay. Why wouldn't I be okay?
Okay, great. Huh. Sorry. Just worried there for a second.
I can't open the goddamn piece of paper. Oh my gosh. Okay, this is the topic for today. It's growing up Polish versus growing up unaffiliated. Unaffiliated, huh?
That's a great topic. I think it's important for the readers to understand that you are very Polish.
Yeah, I'm almost Polish. I am Polish.
You're all Polish, and you were born in Poland, and you came to the U.S. when you were little, but nevertheless, Poland never really left you behind.
Yeah,
and it sort of came with you in the form of your parents.
Yeah, like some kind of a gnat. like a mosquito.
Where is it? God. So what was it? So did you growing up? Did you?
But you and so you're of the two of us. You're the unaffiliated one.
I'm unaffiliated. I grew up American, and with an ancestry that is so complicated, involving so many different European countries and North American countries that it isn't even worth talking about.
Right, because I
was a mutt.
Yeah,
I still am a mutt.
And all that ancestry has not really contributed very meaningfully to your culture.
Right. I mean, we live in Chicago, and so we all get to claim Irishness for a day,
I suppose.
And we're all a little bit Polish, but no, it's only convenience. We make it up when we want an excuse to eat good food.
We all can go up to people and say, "Hey, jak się masz? Daj mi buzi." Right. Yeah,
there you go. And everyone's like, "Oh, that's great." Like
yeah, and then they move on with their lives. Yeah, no, for me it was weird because of my age. I was 2.5 when we left Poland, and we were. I mean, it was a whole. We're political refugees. We came from. It was a solidarity movement. The Cold War was, kind coming to a breaking point and crazy shit was going down. So my parents were like, let's get out of here. And we were in West Germany for like 6 months, and then we came to Chicago. And my mom's brother was already here, so we kind of already had family here. But yeah, I had a weird childhood where most of the people I thought of as aunts and uncles weren't actually aunts and uncles. They were just other Polish immigrants that my parents had met.
I didn't know that.
Because my actual family, blood relatives, were all in Poland, except for my one uncle.
Right.
Pretty much. And so...
Right.
Yeah, so it was like weird. I was like, I just call everyone, hey, it's uncle, whatever. And they'd be like, well, he's not really your uncle. And I learned that like later. I'm like, what? But...
You thought you had very busy grandparents.
but because I was so young, it was like weird because I quickly... I mean, so it took an initial adjustment was difficult for me because my parents didn't put it through their heads that I should probably start learning English right away.
Right.
So like I just kind of was like sheltered at home for like 2 years. I went into kindergarten not knowing any English.
It's a lot of work learning English.
Well, they both had to get jobs, full-time jobs, and they picked it up. My brother started school right away. He picked it up. I went into kindergarten 2 years later, and I was like, what? And so they're like, hey, he needs to learn English. So they told my brother to start speaking to me in English. And then we just kind of stopped speaking Polish to each other.
It's also important that to realize that your brother is the beloved, accomplished one at that time, and you were basically written off as the second son.
He is 6 years older than me, so he'd already started school in Poland. He was like in first grade or something when they left, and when we left, and so he started going to school and everything. But like once I got to that point where he and I started speaking English, I started going to school. I quickly became assimilated into American culture, and like I think if I had been like a teenager or something when we'd come over, I would have kind of held on to the Polish culture more or whatever. But it was like I was in this awkward state where all of my friends and like my peers and my teachers and all of that were very American. I was very much like American growing up. But then I'd come home and go to my Polish household, my Polish like functions. We'd eat Polish food at home, and so there were these the most.
And you do weird Polish things like, I don't know, eat Christmas dinner the day before Christmas.
Open presents on Christmas Eve instead of Christmas Day.
Yeah, man, what is with that?
One Christmas, the friend of the family dressed up as Santa Claus, and he looked like a bishop. He had a staff.
Right.
Because in Poland, Santa Claus didn't look like the Coca-Cola Santa Claus,
Right.
He with the buckle and the fluffy white, winter coat. No, he looks like a pontiff, and
he beats children with the cane, right?
With the tall hat and everything. Yeah, and I was terrified. I was standing up straight, like my muscles were tense because I was horrified because in Poland, if you're a bad kid, you don't get coal. What you get is beaten by Santa Claus, with the cane. So, or at least when I was growing up. I think maybe now, nowadays, Poland is there's a lot more, I don't know, wokeness probably going on in Poland, just like there is here. But it's back then it was just like, oh yeah.
I mean, that's that could be true, but Poland is also in the middle of like an extreme conservative government where they're restricting people's freedoms in a number of interesting ways in order to stay in power, and it's complicated.
Yeah, well, I think that you can say to some degree that stuff like that is happening here. So I mean, there's like a partisanship, there's a partisan divide.
Yeah.
So I think that there is a very very partisan left as well in Poland. That's
no question.
So anyway. Sidetrack, but I
wait. Let's talk more about Polish politics for a second. No, I was just joking.
I don't know anything about Polish. I really don't. The thing that jumps out to me the most. One of the things that jumps out to me the most is like is like food, because I remember like going to, when I was little, we'd like go to McDonald's, and I'd get like chicken nuggets. And it was like, and I was like afraid of eating like a hamburger or like cheeseburger or something. I was like, what? I'm like, what is this thing?
Was it the vegetables?
I was like, I can't move on to that yet. I'm not ready, like I'll stick to the chicken nuggets. And like, like I actually have memories of when I ate my first like American things, like hot dogs, or I mean, maybe I don't remember when I ate my first hot dog, but
right.
like, there were these things. I remember one specific experience, which was, I went to like a almost like a Sunday school for Catholic church, but they called it faith class, and it wasn't on Sundays. It was like on some weeknight, and it was some parent like of one of the kids or whatever who would volunteer to run the thing, and I remember we were like in this lady's like basement, and we were. I think it must have been second grade, because we were like getting ready for first communion. So like, okay, we're going to practice. And she didn't have any communion wafers. So she improvised, and she took like white bread, like just like sliced Wonder Bread or whatever. Yeah. And she like took like a circular cookie cutter and made these little.
That's adorable.
Things of it. And I remember distinctly, like, first of all, looking at this, and I was like, what is this substance? And she's like, we're just going to use bread. We're just going to use regular white bread. And the kids are like, oh, that's weird. And I'm looking at this. I'm like, what is regular white bread? What is this? And I remember holding it up to my nose and sniffing it and being like, this smells like alcohol. And ever since then, I've always thought that white bread smelled like alcohol, like vodka or rubbing alcohol or something. Like, what? Like, what? This is bread? I'm like, it's like a marshmallow. It's so soft, because I hadn't had a single slice of white bread yet in second grade. I grew up eating the Polish rye bread, which is just, it's like this firmer, it's got
tough.
This tough
it's
crust
bitter,
and everything.
It's a little sour.
I don't know, sour, but anyway, it's different,
for people
right?
who have rocks for teeth, who can just grind it down.
That's right. And
unlike we Americans who can't eat anything but our white bread, our sugar bread.
Yeah, and so I was like, what the fuck? And I do remember, and then like, I don't know, I just remember the first time I don't think I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich until like sixth grade or something. And I was like, and I ate it, and I was like, this is delicious. I was like, this is amazing. This is so much better, because we were eating peasant food, because my parents are from like the rural parts. Rural parts of a communist country. I mean, we're talking poverty, like, so they had, my dad would like take the rye bread, and he'd like slather it in sour cream and sprinkle sugar on top. That was a treat. That was like, and actually it's good. I still like eating that. And it's weird. I'm
going to have to disagree with you there.
It's weird, but I love it. You got to keep piling on the sugar, though. But anyway, but like,
and then you don't even need the rye bread or the sour cream at some point.
Yeah. So the it was like
the rye bread is the
like
plate that you put. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I all these things that all these kids already like s'mores. I don't think I had s'mores until I was like 18. I was like, what the fuck is this? I'm like, I know marshmallows, they're delicious. Yeah, I know. There was just a lot of
who knew.
And so I don't know. I grew up kind of like just intimidated. I still feel that way. I think I'm always like anything I come across, I'm like, oh cool, look, it's a thing, and then I'm like, wait a minute, should I already know about this thing? I'm like, is everyone else ahead of me in this thing?
Do you still speak? Can you still speak Polish?
Yes. Just not as well. I mean,
why don't you say something to our listeners in Polish? And maybe anyone who's listening from Poland will be like, oh!
Ja potrafię mówić po polsku, ale już zapomniałem dużo i teraz mi trochę jest trudniej mówić po polsku, po prostu. Okay, that's it.
That's the end. Thank you.
Yeah,
I don't know what you said.
I had so many terrible things about you.
That's what I would expect,
And
actually.
actually about your wife. No, but
That's also true.
yeah. So
My growing up was very different.
yeah.
Because
Well,
I
I
didn't
imagine.
escape a communist country. I grew up in suburbia and thought that was the end of things. That basically the world was suburbia and more of it, because I had nothing to prove me wrong. But what's interesting about growing up unaffiliated is I think that there's this very like American thing about ditching your family at some point. That's sort of a very common American thing where like at some point you're like, or at least like white American, where you're like, I'm self-sufficient now. I'm going to go make my own life. I'm not going to do what my parents want me to do, what my parents do even. I'm going to go do my own thing.
Yeah.
And they want to, and there's this like attitude of like wanting to go do your own stuff. And in my family, the ramification of that has been every generation has hated the prior for hundreds of years. And we know this because everyone left home at like the age of 13 or 14 to go do something, anything to get out of the house.
But well, you didn't do that.
But so anyway, that's what I grew up in. I didn't do this. I grew up in a relatively normal house, but all of my extended family, I viewed with suspicion because my parents were like, "Oh, they're terrible," and so anyway, so I didn't understand what it was like to have like a close extended family at all. And I know that you hung out with your extended family all the time.
Well, when I went back to, especially then later, we finally started going to visit Poland, and I had all these great like summers where I got to know my like cousins and uncles and aunts, and there's a lot of them, and my one grandmother, because my other grandmother, I already knew she lived with us growing up. But anyway, yeah, like, and I I think it helped that it was a rare thing though, that I didn't maybe live like I didn't see them very often. So every time I did, it was a really happy thing. But I mean, it wasn't until I was grown up really that it was like 17. And then like in my 20s, I went to Poland a whole bunch, and I just had tons of fun with my family. But I
had the opposite. I had the opposite experience. The goal was to spend as little time as possible with my parents or with my grandparents. So we would like go visit my grandmother or something, and it was like, we'd spend 2 hours there, and that was about the maximum everyone could take. And then it'd be like, all right, time to go back. or even we'd drive all the way to Michigan where my other grandparents lived, and we'd spend like a couple days there, but it was like essentially the minimum amount of time you could possibly spend there and still be like a nice visit. We'd visit like once every 2 years. We'd spend like a weekend there, 6-hour drive to get out there, spend, a night, one day, the next night, and then we're out as early as possible the next morning. It was always very tense. And I think that really colored my perspective on what it was like to have family, or to be, or like to be part of a culture or anything. Now that I'm older and I've been around the world and I've met interesting people from all sorts of things, most other cultures seem to have like this strong ethnic identity which is tied to family or ancestry. Yeah. Like, well, I'm so and so, and we do things this way because that's who we are. And people who don't do it this way, it's not that they're necessarily evil, though sometimes they are. But
yes.
It's just that they're not us, and we do things better, and that is completely opposite of the way that I grew up. In my family, we didn't have any of those traditions at all. We just made them up. Yeah, and we have like 5 of them that we made up.
Well, I think the grass is always greener on the other side, because I think in my situation, I don't know. Because I'm so like, creative. I like to think outside the box or whatever. Anything that's like a cultural tradition just sometimes makes me want to tear my hair out. I'm like, I don't want this. I don't care about this. I want to do my own thing or whatever. So
yeah.
And I think you start
my favorite story about you and your parents is the fact that when they come visit, they don't knock on the door. They just opened the door, and they're just, because that's just how you do things over there in the villages of Poland.
Yeah, it's a rural thing. I mean, this is, it's a very communal thing. I mean, even now, like, all of my like first cousins on my dad's side, they all live in the same tiny village. They've all built their own houses like right next door to each other or across the street from each other. There's like 5 or 6 houses like right in one spot that all are populated by my dad's side of the family. And that's just how, they just walk in and out of each other's houses and are like, hey, I need some sugar, whatever. And they're like naked and like, it's just, I mean, but I want to say that it's interesting you were talking about the getting out of the house thing. From my experience watching American families, it's not just the kids. From my experience, it was the parents that were like that too, that were like saying, oh, you're okay. You finished high school. Now get out of the house, kind of thing. Like it's almost like a
yes.
Whereas at least I don't know. In my experience in Polish, it's the exact opposite. It's like what? Why aren't you? Why don't you basically? Yeah. Why don't you build a house right next door to? Why don't you live with me forever? Like. I mean,
who's going to take care of me when I'm older?
Yeah, exactly.
That's why I had children, so you would take care of me.
Yeah,
and in the sort of like Western, or in sort of like the the culture I come from, whatever that is, the mishmash of things. The ideal is like the parents will have taken care of themselves. Thank you very much. They don't need you.
Yeah. Yeah.
You got to go get a life of your own. You got to be self-sufficient.
Yeah.
Or something.
And like I said, I think my age is weird because of my age. I never felt like fully Polish or fully American.
Right.
And now as I've grown up and, I'm like, I kind of don't think of myself. I don't have much of a national identity or cultural identity. I kind of, I don't like to even think in those terms. I prefer to just think of people as people and like think about universal human values, like universal rights and things like that. And I kind of view any like cultural identity things as almost like, or complaints, or almost like petty or something. I don't know.
Yeah, you and I have the same perspective on this. I think we've talked about it a little bit, but yes, I too agree that like it seems like the only thing these cultural things do is define who you hate in what circumstances. It doesn't seem particularly productive.
Yeah, it's really difficult to walk that line of like being proud of your own culture without thinking, condescendingly or something about other cultures. And I think a lot of people don't do it very gracefully. So
True dat. True dat.
Yeah. I'm not going to get into specifics, but it's like what is that song?
Bob,
Avenue Q.
Wherever you are.
Everybody's a little bit racist, I mean, it's everyone. Isn't that song? I never saw the musical, but with the
Avenue
puppets,
Q.
Avenue Q. But there's that
Everybody
song.
a little bit racist sometimes.
There's like I think every country you go to where like that has its own kind of cultural identity, you're going to hear something about some. A lot of the time it's the neighboring country, like, oh, those fucking, But
I feel like there's a map I've seen a map about this. It's just a map of like, by the way, if you're ever traveling here, you have to know who hates who.
Yeah,
this
so
is
that
like
you don't
this is like a
offend
Saturday Night
anyone.
Live skit or something.
So
yes, it's like, so if you end up in Croatia, you have to hate the Serbians, or if you end up in Turkey, you have to hate the people in Greece or whatever.
Yeah.
And you have to have the list. Luckily, everybody hates Americans, so it's really easy for us.
Yeah. Oh, anti-Americanism. Anyway,
I'm curious though if any of our listeners have any particular stories about their interesting ethnicity growing up, or any of the weird things that happened to them related to their culture. If you do, please drop us a line, send us a note at www.matthatters.com. You see the link, click it, send us an email about your own experiences growing up in a strange ethnicity.
Yeah, and I just want to mention I'm still bitter about the Polish school, which was the Saturday morning school that I had to go to every week as a kid to brush up on my Polish skills and learn my Polish history and stuff. While everyone else, I missed out on so many Saturday morning cartoons.
I was watching cartoons.
I know. I was like, all the other kids get to be watching Saturday morning cartoons, and I have to go to this, these Polish classes. I had school 6 days a week.
Yeah.
It's an injustice. Although it did teach me to read and write in Polish, which I otherwise wouldn't have done. Because that's my problem.
Use on a daily basis now.
Well, that's my difficulty with the Polish language is because I was 3. I'm all fine with like Polish domestic talk, like saying things like the socks are dirty and where are my slippers. Yeah. But anytime like the language gets more advanced and you start talking about anything else, I like start to be like, so that I have like these. Like when you hear me talk, you'll be like, "Oh, you speak Polish very well," and I'm like, "Yeah, but I'm like choosing the 1,000 most common words, like that thing explainer we talked about the other day."
I've heard this is called like kitchen Polish or grandma Polish, which is like, enough to be able to talk to your grandma or like get around the kitchen.
That's my
Like you can't say things like, "I don't believe this election was fair" or something.
Yeah, forget it.
Yeah,
forget it.
No hope.
No.
Or, I don't think man's primary motivation is greed. That's well beyond your Polish.
Well beyond. I have to applaud myself though. I've had like theological discussions in Polish. I've learned certain words and how to express myself. I'm pretty proud of my ability to.
You're like, you man, there is big thing above us in sky and it very powerful. You agree? Other person's like, yeah, sure, whatever you say.
Yeah, the bathroom's that way.
Yeah, and you're like, no, I mean it is important thing, and it moves us all. And you're like, and the other guy's like, yeah, that's right, it's right, just down the hall.
And then they're like, I understand what you're saying. There is no God. I'm like, Jak się ma? Anyway.
We beat that topic to death.
Probably. There's a lot more to say. I have stories to tell. Anyway,
tell me one story.
No. It's too late.
Okay.
But thanks for listening, everybody. Again, check us out at madhatters.com. Submit your topics to the Mad Hat.
MATTHATTERS.
For possible
.com.
discussion. And finish to send you off. You know what? This is actually totally fitting for the topic we chose because we're going to send you off this week with the pop group The Polish Tongue Twisters.
Oh.
Yeah. From their Grammy-winning album To cóż, że ze Szwecji, here is their chart-topping pop anthem W Szczebrzeszynie chrząszcz brzmi w trzcinie i Szczebrzeszyn z tego słynie. I was thinking we really need to do an episode where we both just get wasted and then.
I didn't think you liked alcohol.
And then a couple. Well, that's going to make it even more fun, isn't it?
Yes. Yes, it will.
Yeah, and then when I'm sober, I'll listen to it to do the editing, and I'll see what took place, what transpired.
You won't remember it in the moment.
No.
But after the fact, you'll be like, oh.
And then I'll put, we'll put a message up that says, we're skipping one episode, everyone. Sorry. Because I'll be like, we can't.